am back. That's right. I am your host, Jessica Koch, and this is Profound Professionals. It is the interview series that has been bringing you global industry experts. That's right, all over our beautiful, pretty planet. They help you improve your personal life and grow your business. Today, we have the most amazing panel of guests, and I say that every time, so don't feel bad if you're the panel of guests from last time, because I loved you too. So here we go. Today we have a Dr. Suanne. She is a psychologist, author, and all right, help me,
Cha.
Tai Chi Cha and yoga instructor. So that means she can stretch way to the tippy top and down to her tippy toes. And that is a really, really good thing to be able to do. She is also a wife and a mother. I love that. And a dog enthusiast. We have had many dogs. So with 7 children, that has come with lots of different kinds of animals, a little small, short of a zoo at our house. So welcome, Dr. Suanne.
Thank you. It's
All
good to
right.
be here.
We also have today is David, and David is surrounded, as I mentioned earlier, by all of us smiling, beautiful women. I'm just going to say so myself. And David is the founder of Grief Relief Ministries. This is an important thing he does for humanity because, I feel like in my personal beliefs, and I respect all of your personal beliefs out there, that we are all energy and all connected. And, when we transform to different kinds of energy and are not on this planet in the same way anymore, the ones you love really feel that deeply. And so, as a certified grief coach and author of 2 books, he is going to help you embrace that journey so that you can really appreciate everything you had with that person and come out still being and feeling you. Life is important as we journey together, and even sometimes as we are left to journey without some of those that we love. And having people like David is so very important. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
So we have Dr. Bashama, right?
Ashima.
Bashima. I had it right the
It's
whole
okay.
time. Dr. Bashima. Okay, names are
Yes.
important. They're very important to me.
Yeah.
This is why I asked to get them right. So Dr. Bashima has 25 years of experience in the trenches of healthcare. And if there was any term that you should connect trenches to, it is totally healthcare, not just family medicine doctor, but one of the first 1,000 certified in functional medicine, and loves helping people transform their lives from the inside out. And I mean all the way inside. I mean the gut inside, that gut health, that nutrition, all of those crazy hormones that are, by the way, what make me crazy, not me. I'm going to totally blame the hormones, with a focus towards improving our health span, but not just the health span and our lifespan, but a quality of life, right? So great that the medicine of today can help us to live to be 160, but how good is that life we are living? So welcome, Dr. Bashima.
Thank you so much. Yes, perfect. Perfect, Jessica.
All
Yes.
right, there's hope for me. Okay, so we are going to run through, and I already warned them. We are going to go gentlemen first. We are going to drive against the norm, and we are going to get David to share with us a little bit about his journey and story and the clients he serves. So, welcome, David. Give us a bit of your story.
Thank you very much. And my story actually started before I realized it. I dealing with grief and loss. When I was 11 or 12 years old, my dad actually was killed in a farming accident, and I was the oldest of 5 kids at that time. And that kind of set a stage for me that I didn't realize where I was going from there. But my mom remarried, and then I finished high school and went to college. During that time, I met my first wife, and it was like a perfect match. And she was actually from Maryland. Uh, Bryan's Road, Maryland, is where she grew up and hailed from. And we went to college and then started our careers. And I was actually assigned as a teacher of a Bible college at the collegiate level. But during that period of time, after 20 years of marriage, she unfortunately died of breast cancer. And I had no clue at that time that a human could hurt that bad. It was, as an adult, I had not experienced that severe of a loss because we were very close, had a great marriage, a great family. 2 years later, I married a widow and who had lost her husband 5 years earlier. I had 4 teenage kids. She had 4 teenage boys. We blended 8 teenagers and lived to tell about it, Jessica, believe it or not. And so anyhow, so life began. We made some moves. I changed colleges to another school. And then unfortunately, 20 years later, my second wife died of cancer, pancreatic cancer in this case. This time, it was a little bit different because before I had a house full of teenagers, I had been asked to speak about my experience in grieving a couple of times, and that was it. And life went on, and we went on and continued to raise that family, finished them all off. But after my second wife died, I came home to an empty house. The silence was deafening. A lot of people asked me, so Dave, I can't imagine what you've been through. I tried to talk to you before, but I didn't know what to say. I had no clue what to write. I had a really good friend who I was actually had worked with, and I never didn't hear a word after my second wife. I didn't hear one word from him. Not a note, not a call, not an email, nothing. Finally, a few months later, I met with him, and he very sheepishly says, Dave, I tried so many times to write to you, but I didn't know what to say. My teaching instinct kicked in. And I said, well, I do. I know what you could have said. So I knew that and in fact, I believe God told me, don't hoard your lessons. And I knew at that time I had to start expressing and being open about and writing about what I was experiencing and how I was going through it. Because actually the second marriage, people ask, well, was it easier or harder the second times? Well, you'd think because I'd been through it before, I knew what was expected and maybe could be easier. No, it was actually harder because your grief oftentimes is in direct proportion to the relationship that you have with whoever has died. And my first wife and I, we had a great marriage, but it was only the first 20 years, like from our 20s to 41. But my second wife, both she and I had experienced deep loss. We were able to love deeper. And so loss was deeper. And so because I did know what to expect, I literally what I did, I leaned into my experience. I leaned into the grieving process because I knew I needed to be fully healed on the other side. And I learned that grieving was not an event. It was a process. And I needed to go through that process. So as the next several months developed, I found myself speaking publicly. I was asked to speak in groups from 12 people to 5,000 in the next 6 months.
So, David, I know you've written some books, and we'll talk about that a bit later, but how else are you helping your clients? Are you doing group sessions? Is it virtual? Do you have online courses? Do you have webinars? How are you serving the community to help them prepare for and support others who are going through this, as you mentioned? Can you share us a little bit with that?
Correct. One of the things that I did, I made myself available through an agency to do what we're doing right now. I had whenever I finally decided, okay, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to start Grief Relief Ministries and expand that. And so what happened, I actually started with a lot of interviews, radio interviews, some live, some recorded.
Sure.
I also made myself available to do seminars. I've done seminars commonly at the leadership level for organizations.
Now, are those in person or are they virtual?
Those are in person. However, as a result of that, I had a request from a seminary in
Mhm.
Texas to do a virtual class. So I developed a course, and that
Mhm.
course is available on the webpage.
Or just anyone can get access to that now?
That's correct. Yep. You just go on my webpage and go to the course, and it's available to you there.
Now
And
they're watching this lots of places, lots of ways. Tell them quickly your website.
my website is Grief Relief Ministries. That's plural.
Mhm.
griefreliefministries.com. And at the top, of course, there's blog there, and the blog has been added to regularly. There's about the books is there, and
Mhm.
then the course is available
And do
there.
you have like a group coaching or group mentorship or group virtual meeting of some kind? Or are you just doing the in-person for the people that have you, and then you have the online course?
I have not. I have participated in small group sessions.
Mhm.
I've actually moved a couple of times, so it's hard to get totally set up
Mhm.
physically with a local group. But
Sure.
I do on phone still today. I do Zoom
Mhm.
connections. I'm not setting up a. You notice I say I'm a grief coach. I'm not a counselor, and I've
Mhm.
never wanted to develop a
Sure.
counseling business. So I haven't gone that way, but I do a lot of actually international consulting with
Mhm.
people that are grieving. I just had one in Papua New Guinea actually a couple days
Oh,
ago.
nice.
Yeah, so but yeah, I dominantly it's either one-on-one, either over the phone or communication, and
Mhm.
sometimes when it works with them.
Okay.
It varies, but
Well,
that's I just haven't gone to the group sessions.
sure. Well, you're doing some very important work, and we thank you. We're going to come back to you in a few minutes for a tip. So I would love for you, Dr. Suanne, to give us a little bit of your journey and story. I know you're an author too, and we'll try to focus on that book in a bit, but tell us a little bit more about your life. You have a variety of things that we got in your intro, but I think there's a bit more than that.
Well, I've been a psychologist and a social worker over 3 or 4 decades, three decades at least.
So you
And
understand a lot about what David's talking about with your
yes, I
background.
certainly
Mhm.
do, and worked with various age groups from very young to geriatric age
Mhm.
groups, and worked in a psychiatric hospital for many years, but
Mhm.
also during that time worked in private practice part-time.
Mhm.
And I've always felt that I needed to take care of my own health and my own sense of
Mhm.
stress level, and just I think Basima would probably resonate with this in
Mhm.
terms of just taking responsibility for trying
Mhm.
to be healthy. And
Mhm.
so that's the issue with the yoga and the Tai Chi.
Yeah, that keeps your
And
stress way down. My
and
husband does chi every morning, and I tell him he needs to do extra because I'm gonna come take all his chi, and I come get him and hug him and squeeze as much out of him as I can get.
yes, and so, as I developed that and used that as a single mom after a marriage
Mm.
had expired, and
Which is
then
its own
as
form of grief journey, so for sure.
absolutely, and then
Mhm.
as a new wife with 2 additional teenagers, to
Mhm.
the mix, that became very important, and as I
Mhm.
was learning and becoming licensed as a psychologist, I watched my patients and my clients and realized that they needed to be able to embody that sense of taking their own responsibility and being able to be healthful without just depending on medication or somebody else offering it to
Mhm.
them. And so that's been my philosophy in my treatment practices.
Mhm.
During the COVID period, I had retired from the hospital and was working part-time in my private practice, and then I
Mhm.
couldn't have people
Mhm.
in my practice, and I was
Mhm.
working online. I'm a very physical person, and so
Mhm.
I missed being in their presence. I missed seeing them walk into the room and know just how they were feeling by their posture and
Mhm.
things like that. So I eventually closed my practice during that time and started to read and write a blog about wellness practices,
Mhm.
complementary medicine practices,
Mhm.
and experiencing that more and teaching those things in the community. And
Mhm.
then I began reading, and we'll talk about those books later. But the
Mhm.
whole idea of each of us having the ability to impact other people by simply seeing them as unique individuals and
Mhm.
interacting with them as unique individuals. And began to look at the stories that I had heard in an extended family,
Mhm.
which no longer exists because those folks have long since passed.
Mhm.
But it gave that ability to communicate
Mhm.
by looking at the characters that we were talking about in our own family,
Mhm.
and other people that we knew,
Mhm.
and just developing relationships and ways of interacting and experiencing our personalities,
So
particularly my son and I.
is the primary way that you're supporting people now through your books? I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but are you doing any thing as far as virtual online, or I know you like that human connection, or are you doing online courses, or are you going back into the community, or really are you focusing on getting your legacy and that support through the books that you produced?
I'm still focusing on writing blogs and
Mhm.
newsletters. I maintain a website called 4 Steps Connect,
Mhm.
www.4stepsconnect,
Mhm.
and use stories about animals and just
Mhm.
my observations and talk about that and about my books. The books are important, and I'm looking at developing 2 right now that, I wanna finish one
Mm,
by the end of the year and then the next one next year, so and
that's
then I
exciting.
also speak to community groups,
Oh, good.
about the topics that we've been discussing, and, that's about it.
And your virtual space is the podcast world and shows like ours, which we're very happy, to have you on, yes?
Well, thank you.
Okay. Well, Dr. Bashima, I feel like there's a connection here all the way around. I mean, David had some loss with the C word that I don't like to give too much energy to. And I just so believe that we're at a space where if we just got the right kind of health, both mental, like Dr. Suanne's talking about, and stress relief and other things, it just might be possible for that to no longer exist on this planet. That is not a medical belief. That is a Jessica and my magical world belief. I will also say this is our loving disclaimer. We are, I am the Italian mother of 7, but I'm not your mama. We're not giving you legal, medical, financial, or business advice. Go see a
That's right.
professional if you need any of those things for your mental health, physical health, whatever you need, go get it. We are sharing our stories, our journey. Please reach out to these amazing people if you feel a connection and see how you might collaborate and work with them. But always seek a professional. This is not a show giving you professional advice or medical advice for that matter. So remember that. All right. So after that's been said, I thought that was important to say, but right before your part of the segment,
I
um,
appreciate it.
Dr. Mishima, talk to us about how you relate to our other guests in the show and just really your journey and story.
Yeah, it's interesting when David was talking about having people, either, not talk with him or not know what they want to say or what to
Mhm.
do. It is sort of a area where a lot of my patients struggle with, and it would be nice to have a place I can refer patients to. So that is really amazing, David, and I really thank you for that work. And I do believe that God puts us in a place to use our strengths that sometimes we don't even know we have to better the world. And that is exactly what you're
Mhm.
doing. And I would love to send patients to you. And Suzanne, you and I mean, mental health so important. It's one of the 5 pillars
Mhm.
of health from a functional medicine perspective. I mean, even just something simple like the gut brain axis and how it affects the gut impact, which then affects everything else. So
Mhm.
definitely important to take care of your mind. But my journey began when I graduated medical school and I was so excited. I started practice with my husband. We had an amazing practice together. And then I had 2 patients back to back, like literally within the same week, who came to me after I had given them their 15-month immunizations. And both of them had side effects to the immunizations, presumably. We don't know for sure, but
Mhm.
certainly it raised some red flags. And it also happened to be around the time that my own child was supposed to be getting those shots. And so it was
Mhm.
one of those things where I had to really investigate deeper into, are immunizations causing problems? Now, I am not saying immunizations cause problems. It's certainly a cumulative effect of many things, but that was a coincidence. So I actually read a book called What Your Doctor Isn't Telling You About Immunizations. That was my first experience, was with looking at what the sort of alternative medicine world was
Mhm.
talking about. Because prior to that, you're sort of empowered by medical school to give these shots and not even question it. But I began to question everything. And so fast forward a couple of years later, I had this patient who was extremely irritable. Like she's actually one of the nicest people in the world. And all of a sudden she was going through menopause and became very irritable, so bad that she didn't even want to live with herself. She said her kids, she had 3 amazing kids. One of them was like, I'm going to medical school so I can figure out what's wrong with my mom. Well, back in 2005, there wasn't a lot written about bioidentical hormones, and everyone was afraid to prescribe hormones because of the Women's Health Initiative study around 2000, 2001, that said that hormones are related to, breast cancer, cardiovascular disease, heart disease, blood clots. And it took me several months reading through literature, because there really weren't great books written on, phytoestrogens and other bioidentical ways to heal and treat perimenopause, which is very tricky, because perimenopause is a situation with a disproportionate amount of estrogen and progesterone. So balancing those hormones and transitioning through that gracefully is really hard. It took me a couple of years of really learning a lot about bioidentical hormones, and also some natural options, some phytoestrogens like resveratrol and black cohosh and things like that. Fast forward to a patient I had who came in with joint pain, and it was so bad. And I just happened to have read another book that focused on alternative medicine and
Mhm.
specifically healing the gut. So after regular medicine, we diagnosed her with a rheumatoid arthritis illness. We sent her to a rheumatologist. She unfortunately did not get better. So she came to back in my office and said, "What else can you do for me, doc?" And that's when I said, "Well, what's it going to hurt to look outside the box?"
Mhm.
So we did some non-routine labs, diagnosed her with celiac disease, and almost completely reversed her joint pain,
Mhm.
to the point where she was taking just a tiny bit of medication, but she was pain free.
Mhm.
And that's when I kind of jumped into functional medicine, because I realized there's a whole arena of information I was lacking in order to do my job as a physician
Mhm.
to the best of my ability. So I became
Mhm.
certified in functional medicine, and created a virtual practice called Being Functional, BEING
Mhm.
functional.com, and created the Feel Good Gut Health course that you can access
Oh,
on
that's
Gut
exciting.
123. Mhm.
Nice.
So that's my
That's
journey.
all very good stuff. And I want to reiterate, just for all of you listening and writing comments, just in case you weren't listening the first time, I'm an Italian mother of 7. You don't always hear me the first time. I know I'm a professional at repeating myself. I'm also a professional interrupter, but that is based on requiring survival skills when you live in a large Italian family. You don't learn to interrupt, you don't learn to speak. So I just will say that we are not promoting or discouraging immunizations, that you need to go and see your doctor, a medical licensed professional. And we are also not saying, that traditional medicine or holistic medicine is all one way or the other. Talk to your doctor, figure out what works for you. But I love the idea of holistic ideas for myself. And she is sharing, our amazing doctor here is sharing her journey and experience and what she has seen. This does not mean that is what you should do. You must decide. You're a grown up, go decide what you should do. So I'm just going to say that again. But I love that you share that. And my husband and I are constantly seeking holistic solutions, even with the guidance of our doctor. We're constantly looking for licensed medical professionals that can guide us and our family, that also believe in thinking outside of the box, and specifically for us personally, outside of the bottle, right? The I am 51 and fabulous, and oh, am I fabulous. And I don't take any medications. I take vitamins and some other supplements, and I'm always reading about and trying to figure out which ones are the best of those. And but nothing else. I have nothing else that's, well, wrong with me. Is that's a very that's argumentative point, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm well and happy and joyful and kayaking and hiking and doing all of the things. And I think that's because we look and seek to have, as Dr. Suanne says, the mental health and the de-stress. I was sharing, my husband goes out and does chi. I have a standing desk for years now. I also have a walking pad. So when I'm on Zoom with other people, I'm typically bouncing around like this. And, I also think joy does something, and our mindset does something. I've had guests on the show that have come out of a coma using their mind. Is that medical advice I'm giving you? No, but these are things that have happened to the guests who have come on our show. So it's fascinating. Our human body is super fascinating. And I still don't think everyone knows just how capable it is of healing and helping itself if we just get out of our own way and give it the space to do so sometimes. So, yes.
Right.
Great.
All right, now I'm gonna go around the room and get ready. Gear up, ladies, because I'm swinging, tossing the ball at David first, and he's gonna swing us a tip for the day. So give everyone listening, from your level of expertise and what you do to help the world, David, a tip that could help someone today.
One tip for today that I would give is that your story matters. There's somebody out there who will benefit greatly from your story. Whether you are just not opening up, or you're ashamed to talk about it, or you think you're too timid, or you think, well, who would listen to that? Even when it comes to business, it could be that you're not stepping out and with a business is because you don't think you've got what it takes. Your story matters, and there's somebody out there waiting to hear your story for encouragement.
I love that. And, that's part of why I do this show. I am almost at a thousand industry experts from all over the world that we have featured. And just how exciting for me. I mean, I know it's nice for the rest of the world that we're pushing this out and featuring it and sharing it, but just what I have received by doing this has just been a thrill. And that's why I always tell you out there watching, we're so grateful for the followers. And when you hit that share button, you just don't know what kind of gift you potentially give someone who needs to hear this message more than you ever would know. It's one of those great things. So Dr. Suanne, can you give us a tip for the day?
Oh, I certainly can. I feel like I'm in the process of learning a whole new career in writing and trying to publish books.
Yeah.
And it is so different from what I did before. And
Yeah.
I just think that learning constantly is an extremely important thing. It doesn't have to be big, but just being willing to learn something new. And this is the part that I have to listen to, that it takes time and it takes patience to learn something new. And you don't have to know it all on the first day.
No,
And I have to remind myself of that
and
often.
but what you don't what the point that you're not making is it is the fountain of youth, right? So that
Yes.
when we use our minds this way and we stretch ourselves and we learn new things and we continue to find within ourselves value and purpose and legacy and reason for being here, and what you're doing is building these books are, I mean, I don't know how many business owners do you hear or watch a few of my shows. If you know, got nothing better to do, you sit in the bathtub, let their show run in the background. Napoleon Hill comes up as one of the books so many times. This person is no longer physically here. I believe his energy is still with us. That's just my personal opinion. But you know what? He's still affecting lives, you know, and that's what happens when you write a song, write a poem, build a video, write a book, make a movie, leave something here, build a building. You know, some of these houses have been around over 100 years, or buildings have been around more than 100 years, and do something that leaves a mark that benefits someone long after we're here. And that, I think, oh, sometimes people go to these spaces where there's assisted or independent living, and they go and they just wait for the end. And when they don't have purpose and self-value and drive and vision and a desire to leave a mark and a legacy, then I think that's when we lose ourselves. And you know, that's such a, oh, such a waste, right? In my opinion, because our souls and our energies are so valuable and unique and special and amazing. So, oh, Dr. Suanne, what you said, I am like off my soapbox and off to Dr. Basima for her amazing tip. And I love the work you're doing.
Okay.
I didn't, before we go into your tip, I wanted to ask you, do you only help patients now who you physically are near you, or do you virtually work with clients as well as your online course and other things that you have? Or could you answer that and then give us a tip, please?
Absolutely. I have a virtual course, gut123.com. And if you do the virtual course, then you have access to me every Friday with our Facebook private group where we answer
Oh,
questions, and it's a community. So it's kind of nice to grow with a group of people rather than sort of go at it alone. Diet is not something you're going to get right the first time out of the box. And so what we try to really do is focus on creating smart goals and habits, and really trying to get deep into that subconscious, so that our what we're doing isn't just because we've always done it, but because we're being intentional about doing it. So we really focus on, of course, what you should eat, nutrition 101, but really all of that. I see patients for functional medicine in Florida, Missouri, and California. That's where I'm licensed to see patients. Um, Regarding my tip, and by the way, also to go back to the immunization thing, I had to re-look and how I gave immunization. So I started picking and choosing for my patients individually. So what you said about working with a healthcare, absolutely. There are certain shots kids, in my opinion, should get. There's certain ones that maybe we can wait. Maybe we don't have to give 5 shots at one time. Just using your brain and using outside the box thinking instead of just going with what you learned in medical school. I hope that answers your question.
yeah, and I'm gonna
And
make one comment before you go into your tip is I am anti the word diet because the word die is in it. I think
yeah,
it's food fuel source, food fuel, or however we're going to nutrition up our body, and put
yeah,
into it the very, very, very best.
yeah,
So, being
yeah,
critical and analytical about what food source you allow into your space and into your body, I think
that's right.
is really important. And I also think that time zones, and this is again my opinion, I think so. That's the beautiful thing about we're supposed to be allowed our
Your show.
opinion, yeah. But I think time zones and sugar are the devil, so Figure out some time zones in my world with all of our virtual assistants and clients all over the world, Scotland, London, UK, Australia is my favorite because I'm on a different day from them, and so, and you put sugar in you and in the wrong amounts, and I just don't know. I feel like they fuel all the bad C word, the one I try not to give any energy. There's two C words now I try not to give any energy to. The one that happened a little while ago that shifted the world a bit, and now we're moving on from that, and the one that just takes too many lives. So I just refuse to give it energy.
Mhm. I
That's
agree.
my own way of handling it. All right. How about
That's
your tip?
good.
We're ready for it now.
Okay. So, from a functional medicine perspective, the 5 pillars of health, focusing on nutrition, sleep, exercise, stress management, and social engagement. I think, Sue Ann, you would love the social engagement research. That's just amazing. You really do have to have a purpose-driven life. And so, of all of that, nutrition, I just want to give just a little. I have so many tips written down here for you guys. I wish I could talk for 30 minutes, but one of the most important things we talk about with nutrition is how pay attention to how food makes you feel. And if you become tired after eating certain things, or you have brain fog and you don't want that, then don't eat that food. That food's not for you. So really paying attention, and also paying attention to pattern and habits that you need to break one by one. Don't do marathon style. Do not change your nutrition like you would run a marathon without practicing a single day. You're not you might get to mile 3, but that's about it if you start, sprinting. But do not do that. Do one step at a time. And that's the beauty of having a course like this and a community that supports you. Everyone's on the journey at a different point. So it's really, I think those are really vital, that what I've learned, because I'm, as a doctor, you're kind of a type A personality, which I've had to learn to dial it back a few notches.
Mhm.
But my patients have helped me along the way. I've really listened to their struggles and what works for them and what doesn't, and sort of compiled all that in after almost 30 years of seeing patients.
Well, and how a doctor makes you feel is really important too. And I think some doctors miss that class. You go in and they say, "Oh, this, and this," and then you walk away going, "Oh, I'm never going there again. That was the stick I didn't want to get hit with. I'm dodging it." So, and they want
Yep.
to. Sometimes they want to give you all these, horrible labels, and I'm like, "Oh, that's okay. I pass. I pass on the label. I am, young
Yep.
and vibrant and healthy and joyful." I think joy and love make you healthy and heal you too,
Mm.
on some level. I mean, these are just things I think. This is the magical world of my mind. So, you don't have to agree, and it's certainly not a medical prescription for you, a subscription, prescription, one of those things. Um, so that's important to know. That's my other tip. Okay, so now we're going to go around to one of my other favorite parts. Since show number one, we've take pause, and it's not just about, can we talk about how amazing David is, and look how beautiful and brilliant Dr. Suanne is, and oh my goodness, look at all the accomplishments Dr. Basima has had. We want to do something that's what makes the profound professionals profound, something bigger and greater for us, for the community, for the world at large. And so we take a moment to talk about causes that are close to our heart. So this is where, you already know, you've been following me forever. Put in the comments the cause that you care about and hit that share button, because you just might inspire someone to give time, treasure, or talent to the cause you share, to the cause that our guests talk about today, or even just remind them that, oh yeah, I have this cause I love about. I just haven't taken a minute. Life got busy to get involved. So if they give time, treasure, or talent to something, or do something good today because of the show we have, I say that the 4 of us are super, super winners. And all of you hitting share and commenting and following that are inspiring that too, you're the heroes as well. So we're going to start with David, as always. Back to our our amazing gentleman on the panel, to share with us a cause that's close to your heart.
Jessica, in today's world in the United States, there's over 21 million women living at or below the level of poverty. Most organizations and periodicals write about them. There's only one that I know of that writes to them and for them, and often by them. And that's called Reach Up Magazine. Their webpage is reachupmag.org. And they quarterly, they send out short 8-page periodicals that are written to and for women who are at risk, marginalized women. I understand that there's agencies like prison ministries, halfway houses, rescue missions, pregnancy crisis centers, all across the country. There's like 200, I think 220 some agencies that are currently using the magazine as a middle step in helping women get from the pit that they find themselves in back up to, and they're reaching up for help, and Reach Up is there to help them. So this is a growing concern. I understand the last few years the demand has increased big time, partly because more nonprofit agencies that work with women at that level realize we've got to do more than just feed them and give them clothes. We've got to help them learn and be reorientated and fill in the blanks and deal with the issues so that they can restore their dignity. And so reachupmag.org is a place to go for more information about them. They also have a web page for the ladies called myreachup.org. The articles can be read there. They can be listened to there. And there's videos about how to cook, how to cook with no money, how to stay fit, all kinds of stuff. So I highly recommend reachupmag.org, Reach Up Magazine, as a charity that I would have high respect for.
Well, and I just want to put out there, we didn't twist his arm because he was the only guy on the panel to do a woman's cause. So good on you, David. Thank you for that. And I will point out, because it still bothers me, I recently watched, and recently within the last month or so, Helen Reddy's I Am Woman documentary on one of the streaming show channels. And I did not realize that we still don't even have equal pay in certain position, in the same position as men across the board as a law on the books. I really feel like this still needs to be addressed. I don't think we should let it go, ladies. I'm just saying. That's a problem for me. So there's another way that we as women can roar and reach up together. So I loved that cause. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Suanne, can you share a cause that's close to your heart?
Sure. I live in a rural area. It was traditionally a mining area. I'm from a mining family. Cool. And Frostburg Foundation and also County United Way here are local charities that really are trying to help this area make a comeback, because we have lost the deep mining, which is a fortunate thing. The strip mining is a dangerous thing and is wiping out our mountainsides. But we've also lost a lot of industry, as this Appalachian region has. So we have the problem of poverty, unemployment, the increased drug use, which then also impacts children and parenting and alternative people needing to parent the children. And so these two organizations, Frostburg Foundation and County United Way, really are trying to kind of reinvent the area to make it a place where people would enjoy living with a variety of alternative things like cultural and tourism and
it's beautiful there. You should visit.
Well, it is very beautiful, educational and medical kinds of facilities. And they really are wonderful. And the volunteers who work there are terrific. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I love the United Way everywhere, just because, I mean, everyone has their opinion on all the different bigger, larger nonprofits, but the United Way really helps some of the smaller nonprofits,
exactly.
You know, under their umbrella, and give them guidance and training and resources. And different things. So that's a great one to share, and not one someone's mentioned in a long time. So thank you for that, Dr. Suanne. And so, Dr. Basima, a cause that's close to your heart?
Awesome. A cause that is close to my heart and a group I've worked with for years and I'm on the board of is the Rooted Sisters in St. Louis, Missouri. And we're actually trying to grow nationally. And it's a group
Mhm,
of business women where we grow, study, and lead through the book of Christ, the Bible.
mhm,
And we try to lead other newer entrepreneurial women into their businesses. I kind of grew up
mhm,
in a business family, so that's kind
mhm,
of in my blood as well. And we also do support groups, one-on-one ministries with
mhm,
new believers. So
mhm,
that's something that's been really good. And we're branching into the community and we're trying to do more and more. The group
mhm,
itself is about 5 years old, and we're in its current state right now. It's actually about 8 years old, but it's just growing and growing.
mhm,
We have a huge event this Wednesday, actually, in the St. Louis area. So it's good. And I love your causes too, David and Suanne. I think those are amazing. The Bible tells us also with the 21 million women, I wonder how many of them are widows.
mhm,
And I wonder how many of them are, left behind after a divorce to care for their kids and all. So that's really, it makes you think. I didn't realize there was a group like that. And I'm certainly
mhm.
looking them up as soon as we get done here, because that's definitely what we're called to do.
And I do want to say thank you for sharing that intimately. And I respect and love everyone's belief and views. I was raised very Christian and in a religious organization. I'm much more spiritual now. And we appreciate you if you're following for all walks of life, whatever your heritage is, wherever your culture is, where you're from, whatever your spiritual beliefs are. You are welcome here at our show. This is a place that you are safe, and so we love for our guests to share their beliefs and where they're coming from openly and comfortably here. But we want you to know that all of you are welcome, and we hope to feature you if you're doing something great in the world as well. So now we're going to do something that is another one of my, I just keep saying these are the favorite parts of the show because, it is my show after all, and not all the parts tend to be my favorite. I don't know. But I am mad about books. I just love them. A bookworm is probably the only kind of worm I ever want to come face to face with. And really, I just appreciate books in all their forms. And I'm obsessed. And so I love to have our guests and you out there. If you're an author or you have a book that inspired your personal life or helps you grow your business and you want to share it with the world because it might make a difference for them as it made for you, put it in the comments, hit that happy share button. And now we're going to get our guests to talk to us about books not written by them, but that inspired their personal life or helped them grow their business. And David, guess what? I'm starting with you.
Right. Well, I mentioned earlier that I was a teacher at the collegiate level, and my main responsibility, I've been a Bible teacher. So I have to be honest that my number one book off the shelf every day is God's Word, the Bible. And I go back to it. I've read it from cover to cover in different versions and find a lot of strength and energy and quality from that. In addition to that, one of my favorite authors, and I can't single one of his books, is a man by the name of John Maxwell.
Mhm,
Dr. Maxwell has been a leader of leaders. And
mhm,
since my role as not only a business person, but also leading a school or a college has been at that in leadership, I've
mhm,
fallen back on Dr. Maxwell's books various times, either for
mhm,
ethics or for quality or for common sense. Even
mhm,
to the point now, I understand he's got a whole team of people out there that are speaking on his behalf. I've
mhm,
met some of them, and they're great. But I highly recommend the books that Dr. Maxwell has written for any kind of potential entrepreneur, business person, there's
Mhm.
going to be foundational stuff there that'll make a difference, because you might be the best tool polisher in the warehouse, but that doesn't make you a good business person about tool
Mhm.
polish. You
Mhm.
need some other guidance, and Dr.
Mhm.
Maxwell gives some really good common sense
Great
advice.
suggestion. We've actually had lots of John Maxwell certified instructors and trainers and speakers on the show in the past. So, yes, definitely a great resource and organization following. Dr. Suanne, a book that inspired your personal life or helped you grow your business.
I have two.
Okay. It seems
One
to be the running
is
theme for today. Go ahead.
one is the pocketbook of Thich Nhat Hanh, and he's a Vietnamese monk who
Oh.
is very inspiring in terms he has helped me. He's since passed, but
Mhm.
the idea of being quiet,
Mhm.
going inward,
Mhm.
and then also being very mindful that
Mhm.
looking at everything around you, looking at all the aspects of your life and what you're encountering with all your senses, and understanding that it's different in every moment and it's different in every person. That's very inspiring to me. But he's a writer who lets me just go inward and be quiet.
And before you go to your next book, I'm going to tell you, as you were saying those words, it brought me back to I've been with my husband now 26 years, and he is the light of my life. And when we were dating, we went hiking up to, you might even know where this is. We went up to Cunningham Falls up
Oh,
near
yes,
Thurmont,
yes.
and it was very cold, and he had hot chocolate in the thermos, and the leaves had all fallen, and there was some of the water on the rocks was frozen even. But I remember holding his hand, feeling safe, and hearing the crunching of the leaves. And now when I hear the crunching of the fall leaves, I like get transported back magically to that moment of new, giddy, wonderful love that is still part of my life actually every day. But it's fascinating that when you do pay attention to your surroundings, you can sometimes then connect and hold on to moments of some of the most beautiful moments of your life. So,
Yes.
and I've never heard that book before, so I'm super excited that you shared it. So, can you repeat the name of the book and the author one more time?
Yes, it's The Pocket Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's THICH
Mhm,
NHAT
mhm,
HANH.
okay.
And he was very influential in his lifetime, very peaceful person.
And still so, even though he's gone, he's left a
Uh,
legacy.
yes, yes, that's a message as well, isn't it?
Yes,
And
it
the
is.
other one that I have is the Future Human trilogy. I don't
Mm.
know if you can actually see that. The first part of it is The Quest of Rose. It's by Annalise Smitsman, who is a quantum physicist and a
Mhm,
futurist, and Jean Houston, who was part of the human potential movement for
mm,
many years. She's now quite elderly, but she's still very active, and she um, is very influential internationally. But
mm,
that book started me to write the book that I would like to just share as we talk
mhm,
about the importance of being able to interact with your child
mhm,
in a very specific way in
mm,
terms of having well, I won't get into that right now, but the idea that we are at a crisis in the universe, perhaps because of climate and wars and things of that nature. And both of them talk about the fact that as we develop, we have the potential to be the very best humans we can be,
mm,
and that may be what saves the world and
mhm.
saves the human population. And
Yes.
so from my point of view, very humbly, it's to write my books and try to influence people to be the very best people they can be and to help others be the
Mm.
very best that they can be. So,
Well, and I prefer that we're at a turning point of opportunity, not at a
mhm.
moment of despair, but we're at a turning point of opportunity to love and embrace each other and change the world to its
Yes.
very best version of itself, and doing it together. So yes, I love that, and we'll come back soon to hear more about the books you've written. So, Dr. Basima, a book that inspired your personal life or helped you grow your business, or two, as is the trend today.
Yeah. Well, I know. I'm like, oh wow, I could have had more than one.
And
So I do have to agree with David. The Bible is so amazing, and I have read it cover to cover, and it speaks. It's living. It's the
yeah.
living word. It's really quite amazing. The second book, I always joke the most important book is the one I'm reading right now because
Mhm.
I too believe in learning. So I am currently reading all about Russell Brunson's expert
Oh,
secrets on ClickFunnels and what ClickFunnels are. So talk about learning, and really the main thing the reason why I decided to share this book. um, I looked over and I'm literally in the middle of like, I usually read like 3 or 4 books. I'm sure you guys do too.
yeah.
The reason I love this book right now is it's really focusing on teaching me how to communicate effectively,
Mhm.
especially in social media. This is not
Mhm.
something I grew up with. It's not something I like,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
teaching me how to effectively, yeah, it's
Mhm.
teaching me how to be effective because I
Mhm.
have things I want to say, I have things I want to teach. And
Mhm.
Yes.
if you're not effective, you're not to the point, and you don't have a plan, a framework, then you are going to miss the boat. And so I feel like this is
Mhm.
important right now
Mhm.
because it's helping me do that. And also, really it is, I could leave it to the experts. I could just hire somebody to do it for me, but I need to know what they're doing anyway.
Yeah,
And
you
I
do
need
need
to,
to understand it, and even when people hire our VA team, I tell them they need to have an idea. We work together with you to build your plan and your wording, and all of that's so very important. But
Yes.
one of the things I think is important is having as much so that we can reach more, farther, faster with our mission and our passion, have things be as automated as they can be, systemized as they can be, but also infusing relationship and that human touch as much as you can infused in your process, which can still stay there with funnels and sales pages and automations if done right. And then also remembering there are some things that will be still need outsourced that need the human touch to start the domino effect to fall so that in the system and in the automation it can continue to flow, and that domino occasionally has to be pushed, down once a month, once a week, whatever the system is, by a real human, and making sure that there's real human personal touches infused in the whole
that's
process. But
right.
I love that you shared that book. And I am also a big personally, I am still a very, even though I'm spiritual, the Bible is an anchor to my spirituality. And I do find that every time I read it, I find that it has a new meaning to me, or that one same verse, somehow it changed. I think maybe I changed, but somehow it changed and it has this new meaning for me. So
Mhm.
I completely relate to all the great shares. And I'm obsessed with all things quantum. I'll be honest, Doctor. Quantum NLP is
Not
a book
me.
I just recently read, and I find it very
Wow.
fascinating and interesting. That one I think you might even like, Dr. Bashima. It's a very interesting, good, and it still connects to spirituality and honors the concept of a creator, and the things. So as long as things don't disrupt with my personal spiritual beliefs, I'm open to. I think I think that's part of the key is remaining a bit open, shielding and filtering and having a filter and deciding and discerning what's
Sure.
right for our own beliefs, but also listening and being open because there's just so much, it's so much. And this is, from the creator himself. his way of thinking is so much bigger than our way of thinking. And so if we don't open ourselves up to what might be possible, we might find ourselves in a very small closed box, and that's just not as fun to be in this big wide universes of possibilities, that are so beautiful and
Sure.
scientific and magical all at the same time to me.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing all those great books. And now we're going to dig in and talk about um, books and some of the pieces and things you're working on and writing yourself. So, David, I'm going to keep you on your toes, but back to you.
Great.
Hmm.
I mentioned before that I had this stimulation from a friend who didn't know what to say to me, and I realized, well, I know what you could have said, and from that
Mhm,
point, I knew I needed to write down my
mhm,
experience.
mhm,
So I did that. My third wife that I have now happens to be an editor of a magazine, and she the first year we were married, she says, "When you gonna write that book?" And so finally I sat down and did that, and it was very
Wow.
difficult because I had there's 14 chapters, and I had to spend 8 hours on each chapter because emotionally I had to go back there to explain it
mhm,
accurately. But one of the values of the book, and the book is called I didn't know what to say. Being
mhm,
a better friend to those who've experienced loss. Now, I've been
mhm,
told that one of the biggest values of this book is at the end of each chapter, there is a list of things. It's better to say this and not this. Better to say this and not this. That list at the end of each chapter is worth the value of the book itself, just to have
mhm,
those suggestions and
mhm,
know that. Now, the book is not a sit down and read the whole thing because each chapter basically is a different topic. It covers the loss of children, it covers the loss moving out of town, loss of a friend, changing cultures, all, different subject matters. And
mhm,
actually, the longest one is the loss of a child. I didn't expect that, but it's
mhm.
the longest chapter. The book is available in 3 places. You can get it online at Amazon, of course. It's also available online at walmart.com and also barnesandnoble.com. So
Good
if you don't
job.
have an Amazon account, you can get it there. Now, that book is also in Spanish.
All right.
And
Good
Nice,
for you.
nice.
the Spanish version is only, pardon me, only available on Amazon. Pardon me.
That's all right.
The second book, my wife and I did together. We wanted to have, after I would speak, I had many people come up to me and say, Dave, do you have a guide? I'm going through the grieving process. I related a lot with what you're saying. I don't know if I'm going crazy or if I'm doing it right. How do I know if I'm grieving correctly?
I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, I know that. So I said, you know what? Let's do that. So we put together a journal for the grievers. This is
Mm.
something you can give as a gift. Of course, the holiday
Oh,
season's coming
that's
up, and that's
lovely.
usually a very hard time of year for
Yeah, it is.
recording my sorrows, hoping for joy.
Mhm.
This is only available on Amazon right now. Of course, you can also get it by uh, contacting me directly. I have copies, but anyhow,
And And
those
that is good for someone as a gift, whether their loss was recent or years and years ago,
that's right.
because Christmas and Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and whatever special spiritual holidays you have during the winter or throughout the course of the year seasons, um, can reopen the wound, if you would,
That's
in a way that people have to process again
right.
sometimes. Um,
Jessica, believe it or not, the year after Grief Relief Ministries.com went live, I got a phone call from a guy who's working with a rescue mission in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And he says, Dave, I have been picking people up off the streets and taking them to homeless shelters for 7 years. I have found that nearly 50% of everybody we pick up and listen to their stories, they
mhm.
wound up on the street because they were unable to process a major loss in their life.
Mhm.
Oh my.
true.
very significant.
That's very true. I said in the beginning, and I'll say it again, you're doing some good work in the world, David. Good on you. I'm going to switch us up a little bit. So I'm just going to try to throw the guests off. It's fun for me, and I can. So, Dr. Basima, we're going to talk about your online courses. And then in a minute, we'll come to you, Dr. Suanne, so we can talk about your books in a little more depth, because that's a big part of who you are and what you're doing. And I know Dr. Basima has some things that she has been writing and producing and creating. So why don't we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I've created a ebook called Feel Good Gut Health. And I created a course, Feel Good Gut Health, because what I realized when I studied functional medicine is that many patients who came to me, when I could heal their gut, a lot of the other things, whether it was migraines, brain fog, eczema, joint pains, period pains, heavy periods, even infertility, PCOS, whatever it was, if we could heal the gut, then we had a really good chance of reversing a lot of those other peripheral or extra gut issues. So a lot of patients did come to me with constipation or diarrhea, bloating, but a lot of them got better, but then they didn't realize, oh wow, I'm sleeping better now, and my brain is working again like it used to. So really we focused on the gut because it affects so many other areas in your body. So
Yeah.
and like
that food fuel is so key from a holistic standpoint. I had another guest not long ago, and she wrote a book, and I want to say that it's called Wow Warrior, and she went on
Mom Warrior.
Mom Warrior, yes,
Yeah, Mom Warrior.
and it was a mission for her to really help focus on, and it's fascinating that you know who I'm talking about, that she went on a
I've
mission.
gone, yeah.
Yeah,
I've gone to the Autism One conferences,
yeah.
and we know her husband Steve really well. So I actually watched that interview
Oh, you
that you
did.
did with her. I did. I do some research,
It's a
I got to be a
small
little.
world, isn't it, right?
It is. It
And
is.
I mean, that was just blowing my mind. Again, go see a doctor, talk to a medical professional. This is a story that was their experience for sharing, but I was able to, I mean, her son's amazing. Like, he's traveling, he lives on his own, he's doing these things when he wasn't even speaking before, with this autism. And most of it was from food fuel and those kinds of, things that you can do to make yourself the best version of you. So thank you for the work you're doing too. All right, Dr. Suanne, let's hear about the legacy and the book journey that you are on.
Well, one of the books, the first book that I wrote was an experiment. I had written it during, as you aptly called it, my grief period of marriage. And it's called Baxter Tales, personally transformed by a basset hound who taught me about coping with change. And it's about a basset hound who was very, very himself, and my young son, and our process with him and the life lessons we learned. And it's very humorous until he ends up, ending at the end of his life. So it is sad at the end, but it's an interesting book about, I guess the lesson in it primarily is not taking yourself or your problems too seriously, to see joy and love and connection in all things. But the one that I had talked more about in this particular podcast was, do you know how to talk with your young child? And it is about the learn the 4-step approach to converse and connect. And this goes to kind of my life values. The 4 steps being, when you're talking with a young child, you need to, or with anybody basically, you need to stretch and release stress. You need to focus attention by breathing. We talked about that early in our session today. Breathing and letting that oxygen enrich your brain. And using simple communication techniques that foster open communication rather than being the authoritative person who is going to just tell the child what to think or how to be. And then using stories that are open-ended that I do. In this book, I have about 14 little stories, and they're nature inspired, but they're open-ended and they have an issue that's presented. And the open-endedness is to allow the parent and the child to discuss and come to some realization of what their personal values are. I don't pretend to prescribe those to any family. And then developing possibly a little project at the end. So in the process of the whole book, we're teaching verbal language, verbal attention, visual attention by picturing the story, emotional attention and education by taking sides with the characters or not, kinesthetic attention by getting involved in a project or bringing the story to life, drawing pictures or doing a little project. And so it can be educational, but in the sense that families do not have the time sometimes any longer because of people working 2 jobs or people working out of town because there's no work in the area. Grandparents picking up the job of the parent because the parents aren't involved. Maybe necessarily they can't be. The struggle of social media and the draw to play games or to read the internet or read the phone.
Yeah, there's so much screen time.
Yeah, and I see that. I see mothers walking their little teeny children, and this is from an old person, I realize, but I feel like, do you realize that this person is crossing the street on her own and she's only 3 and you're not paying attention? And so to give that special time on a regular basis to really communicate and to communicate with that unique person out of curiosity as somebody who is not a little you, but who has very different experiences every day than you have or ever had. And find out about it, be curious, talk about it, understand what's going on, because that lays the foundation for a relationship as you both grow.
I love
And so
that.
that's the one that I would like to push. And that's available on Amazon and Ingram Spark and ebook and paperbacks.
Yeah, and there's so many great moms groups and places that this book can be distributed or be a book club book. And, communicating with our kids is super important. And it's fascinating how the relationship and dynamic changes as they're adults. And I had so many personalities with 7 children.
Yes,
And,
you
and I did all kinds of things, getting down on their level, and eye contact with them, all kinds of, encouraging relationship things that I even had to learn. I had a, she's a fantastic young lady today, but at 2 years old, she had I could see her little hands on her hips and stomping her foot, and out of her mouth says, "You cannot parent me like you parent the other kids." This is from a 2-year-old. She is a brainiac, by the way. She is a brainiac, and I mean,
love it.
she is one of those that, and I was doing the best I could. I'm just going to tell you right back. And there, I was way outnumbered. And
she was observing you, and she wanted you to observe her.
boy, oh boy, she's still girl. She's something else. But
Oh,
years later, we did do a personality test that and it was like an avatar moment. It was the first moment that I, after reading her profile from her self-assessment on this test,
yeah.
I saw her in a way
Yeah.
I'd never seen her before. And we're closer to this day than we've ever been, because even though some of it's hard for me, um, I I understand that it is about who she is and it isn't about me. It isn't always about me.
Yeah.
Somebody had to tell me that. Because I'm very lovey and huggy and I want, and she is not. She would rather, yeah, and all my other kids are like, I have grown kids who will still sit in my rocking chair, and if we don't break the rocking chair together, who knows? We're, Italian kissy lovey moochy people. And but in her defense, she does make sure, she says she loves me a lot because she knows I
Mhm.
need that. And then I get like an occasional 2-arm actual real squeeze hug, and I have to make that last a long while and get them from everybody else in the family until it's my time again with her. So, but she's
Nice.
a wonderful mother, and she's very snuggly and affectionate with her own child. But even some things still are boundaries. Like she doesn't like her hair messed with, and she doesn't like, she's just, everybody has their own personality.
Absolutely.
And learning that will help you from getting your own feelings hurt too badly. And try to remember that it's not all about us. It's about the people we love too. So thank you for writing that book, making that legacy. Just think of all the lives you'll touch that you won't ever realize or ever meet. But they will be
I
happy
hope so.
small little children and wonderful, happy relationships with parents, with their kids, because of what you've done. It has been such a joy to have all of you on the show today. I hope you're having about as much fun as I am. I know I'm always having the most fun, but I hope you're having a little too.
You
And
know,
if you,
Jessica, I have to tell you, my 2-year-old, I have a 2-year-old, when she was 2, she's 21 now. When she was 2 and my mom came to visit from California, and my mom was telling her what to do, and she goes, "You're not the boss of me," to my mom. And my mom's like,
No.
"I'm the boss of you and I'm the boss of your mom. So therefore I'm the boss of you." So it was just really, it's fun to see these personalities,
yeah,
grow. And so, and our children are so different from one another, but man, play games. That's
yeah,
what we found. We found when we play games,
yes,
everything just kind of melted away and
mhm,
they would just chat, 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 chat. And it was
mhm.
so nice to do
Yeah,
that.
we're
But
addicted
yeah, so
to
that's an awesome.
board games and
Mhm.
card games. We do tons and tons of those. And when we
Yep.
go to a restaurant, no phone, there's no phones. And we go to the beach,
Yeah.
there's no phones. There's no phones.
No.
And I see all
No.
these families sitting around in a circle at a dining table in restaurants, and nobody's talking to each other, and they're all looking at their phone.
Right.
And it's just devastating. And we were literally on the beach, and the waves and the sky and everything couldn't have been more beautiful. People are sitting huddled in their little beach chairs, and they're all on the phones. They're not looking at each other. They're not looking at the view. They're not, I feel like
No.
you're missing the world.
Yeah.
It is not inside that tiny little device in your hand. It
Yeah.
is out here.
The world has
Mhm.
changed a lot, and
Yeah.
we in our communication has changed with it, and
It
we need to come back a little bit.
We do, we do. One of the things I love that we do from a communication standpoint in our family, and this is good for everyone, whether you're grieving, whether you're going through your health journey, whether you're just trying to improve your communication, is when my husband and I started dating. He was married 9 years, I was married 7. Both our spouses left us for other people. We met at the playground where our
Mm.
children started playing together 26 years ago. And as we were dating, we started this thing where we, on a regular basis, tell each other 3 things we love about one another. And just
Mm.
randomly, it's the 3 things game. And we do it with our children, we do it in the car, we do it just,
Nice.
it's a random surprise, and it makes you pay attention. So it makes you pay attention and appreciate the other person. So if you're looking to catch them doing something good and you store it away in your mind, so when the three things game comes up, you have something cool, new and interesting to say. And so, my husband sometimes says things like, "Oh, when we were out at the ball field at the soccer game, you were ahead of me and I was catching up with the rest of the kids. And I saw how the sunlight caught the back of your hair. And I just thought it was beautiful." Like little things like that. I've never would have known he thought that for that moment had he not grabbed that thought, stashed it away for the three things game. And it just does great things for and the kids love it too. My daughter loves it. We play it with her. She's 13 and we still play it with her. And it's a really lovely, wonderful thing to do. I highly recommend it. The power of three is a real thing. So if you're out there watching and you're thinking, wait, I'm an industry expert, I'm an author, I can improve someone's personal life or grow their business, I live on the planet, well, maybe I'm right for this show. Reach out to our team, let us know, and we'll let you know just what to do to get yourself booked and registered. And before we say goodbye to our amazing show today and our guests, we're going to get them all. We're going to squeeze out of them one last piece of information or inspiration to inspire us as we go on our merry way today. David, I'm coming to you. What is your piece of information or inspiration for today?
I have the joy of being able to say that all 8 of my children are leaders. 7 of them own a business, and the other one is a leader in a major missionary agency. My wife, as we discussed this, what I would say here, she reminded me, she says, "This is who you are." I've heard you so many times to say to your kids, "Let's show them how it's done." And that the advice there is be a learner by watching those who are open enough to share with you how and what they're doing. Very, very that teachable spirit, and that demonstration, it's powerful in your own development as well as your business.
All right. Be that leader out there. Inspire leadership. I love that. That's a great message. Dr. Basima, final thought, a piece of information or inspiration?
So just going back to my own children, just asking them over and over again, especially with some of my competitive kids that, are playing volleyball and are wanting to be the starters and are wanting to do this or that, whatever it is. One thing we want to focus on is how did you make somebody else's life better today? And so kind of going through that journey in terms of who did you help today? What did you do that was good today? And when our kids were little, we started going on mission trips. I had always done on mission trips ever since medical school, pre-med and medical school. But when my daughter was in 5th grade and 7th grade, they wanted to go on mission trips. And so we started going on mission trips early on. And I'm seeing the world in that way. Now that they're off in college and doing mission trips on their own, I think that really was it's so inspirational to me that they get it in life. It's not about them. They're leaders, they're amazing kids, but they love God, they love their country, and they love people. And so that's really amazing in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I'm not being no
Nice.
bias here at all, I'm sure.
Well, we all have the right to be proud of our little people, the little humans that I always say they don't belong to me, but boy, was I lucky to be their mom. So
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
a little bit of time on the planet that we get. It's far too little, in my opinion.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
very, very grateful, but I want a little more time.
Yeah.
I have so much more to do.
Yes,
All
I
right.
agree.
Dr. Suanne, you leave us with an inspirational thought as we say goodbye and close today.
I think one of the things that returns in a lot of my writing is the idea of gratitude every day, to look, observe, see all those things around you, see the people around you, the environment, and find many things to be grateful for,
Mhm.
and just enjoy life.
Mm.
Very important.
All right. Until next time, everybody, this has been Profound Professionals. I've been your host, Jessica Koch. And until the next one, be kind to yourself out there and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.